What is up guys, and welcome back to another video. So today we'll be talking about Classic WoW Fresh and which changes I want to be in this version of Classic WoW. For those of you who might not be up to date, Blizzard recently confirmed in a WoW development update that they are working on a fresh experience for Classic WoW players that missed out on the first run of Classic WoW, pretty much confirming that they are working on a fresh start for Classic WoW, aka Classic Fresh Baby. So we already know Blizzard is looking to make some changes to Classic Fresh this time around, as they have sent out several surveys asking for player feedback regarding which changes people want to see in Classic Fresh, and these changes are things like faster leveling, guild banks, barbershops, summoning stones, earning more gold, getting more loot, and things like that. Today I'll be discussing which changes I would like to see in a fresh start for Classic WoW, and even though I know it's a bit early to be making videos on Classic Fresh, when it comes to these changes, you need to voice your opinion on it right now, while Blizzard are working on the game itself, rather than waiting for it to come out, and then start complaining because it didn't add what you were asking for. So based on that, please let me know in the comments down below which changes you would like to see in Classic Fresh, and let me know if you agree or disagree with the changes that I bring up in this video, because I could be totally out of my mind, who knows. I will start with the changes that I expect to see, and I think we'll see in a Classic Fresh, and then we'll move on to more questionable changes that I personally would want them to add, but I'm not sure if they actually will. So first of all, Summoning Stones. This is an obvious change in my opinion, and it will make the life of every warlock so much easier, and even while forming a group you don't need to worry about finding a warlock just for those summons. Warlocks will still have their utility, and you can use them to summon in side instances, plus health stones, so warlocks will still be wanted, but this is an obvious quality of life improvement that I expect to see in Classic Fresh. Number 2, Barbershops and Guild Banks. The Barbershop offers some cosmetics value and doesn't really impact the game in any negative way, so I don't see any reason not to add it. The Guild Bank also offers more storage, and storage was a big issue in Classic WoW for a lot of players, so once again I only see positives about adding that one as well. More difficult content. This is something that they have mentioned and I know a lot of players have asked for, and I think this will be coming with Classic Fresh, and I really hope it will as well. The way I imagine this will go for Classic Fresh is that bosses will have an increased amount of HP or health, and their mechanics will deal more damage, and because we can't expect too much, I think this will be a flat percentage increase, so maybe raid bosses will get something like 50% more health and deal 50% more damage. This wouldn't work on every boss without also extending their enrage timer, and in a dream world they would also rework some boss fights and tune specific mechanics, and maybe even add new mechanics as well, but that brings me back to the fact that we can't expect too much, and we have to remain somewhat optimistic, but I do think we'll see more difficult content in some way, shape or form. Regarding respecking, I think they could do several things about this. Number 1 is they can make it cheaper to respec, number 2 is they can make it completely free to respec, and number 3 is that they can add dual talent specialization. I'm not exactly sure which one I would prefer, but maybe dual talent specialization, which would make it easier for healers and tanks to actually do content outside of raiding, without having to respec all the time. On their official survey sent out regarding Classic Fresh, they also mentioned earning more raw gold, which could potentially be their way of fixing respecking costs, but personally I would much rather see them reduce the cost of, for example, training spells but also respecking, rather than artificially inflating gold numbers. For example, if you earn gold faster, it doesn't really mean that you will be able to buy materials from the auction house or buy more of them, because their value will always be based on supply versus demand. So for example in Classic WoW, a Black Lotus would cost you 100 gold. If people earned 10 times as much raw gold and materials in general, that Black Lotus would cost you 1000 gold, aka 10 times as much. So once again, I would rather just see them reduce the cost of mandatory things instead of increasing gold earnings. I also think reducing the gold cost of mandatory things will also make it so that it will be less of a market for gold buying and gold selling if, for example, respecking, class training and mount training costs were significantly reduced. Regarding mage boosting, they need to fix this somehow, and throughout this video I will mention at least one way they pretty much can fix this, but I also wanted to say that they can either change how Blizzard works, so it has a target cap of how many targets can be affected by the slow effect, or they can remove safe spots, which they have done in retail. One thing is for sure, and that is that the mage boosting meta needs to be fixed. On their official survey sent out to players, they also mentioned faster leveling, and this is where I will once again propose an idea that could fix, or at least combat, the mage boosting meta. Instead of giving us a flat percentage increase in leveling, you could make quests give 100% more, or 200% more experience. This would incentivize questing in the open world, as that would be the fastest way to level up, and it is also the originally planned way to level up, and it would also disincentivize dungeon farming, mage boosting, and mob grinding. So not only would this fix the mage boosting meta, it would also fix where, like back at the launch of Classic WoW, a lot of players felt forced to grind Scarlet Monastery, even though it was boring, and nobody really wanted to do it. It was by far the easiest and fastest way to level up, and by getting more experience from questing, that would disincentivize dungeon farming like that as well, which could make the game itself more fun and less... you wouldn't really feel forced to grind things you don't want to, unless you don't want to do quests, but hey, there we go. You would have to balance this out so questing doesn't give you 10 levels per quest, but it needs to be the fastest way to level up, because in general people will choose the fastest way to level up. Now, if you guys are against this idea, I have another one, and that is that instead of giving us a flat X gain in leveling speed, like private servers have times 3, times 5 and times 7 leveling speed, I would rather want to see Blizzard reduce the experience needed per level, instead of artificially inflating the experience numbers that you get. It doesn't really actually matter which one they go for, but I think it's a lot more pleasing with smaller numbers, instead of suddenly getting 10,000 experience for killing one mob in the open world. Next up, change the honor ranking system and introduce rated battlegrounds. Keep the same rewards and titles, but make it skill-based instead of the time-consuming madness we had in Classic WoW. This might be a deal breaker for some of you, as the honor system in Classic WoW is quote iconic, but personally I think a skill-based ranking system like rated battlegrounds is a lot more fun. It also makes it possible to hit rank 14 without quitting your job and leaving your wife. Next up is world buffs. This one is a bit of a tough one, and I think a lot of players have different opinions on this, but since this video is about which changes I want to see in the game, I want to see Classic Fresh without world buffs, not a single world buff. I could also accept no world buffs inside raids, but personally I don't want any world buffs at all, as it really makes the game itself a lot easier, and especially for raiding it pretty much incentivizes people to not play the game, because you go get your world buffs and after you do that, you're pretty much forced to log out. The Chrono Boon Displacer they added at the end of Classic WoW does fix that issue, but I still don't want world buffs in the game. Next up, achievements. This is once again a quality of life improvement to the game, and it allows for a completionist style of gameplay, where once again, when you have done everything that you want to do in the raiding scene, you can hunt for achievements. Sure, that might not be for everyone, but it's easy for Blizzard to add, and it will in general just add quality to the game itself, and it will generate more gameplay. You will probably notice that I left out a couple of changes mentioned by other content creators and streamers, for example AoE looting, as I do not want AoE looting in the game. Sure, it's a quality of life upgrade, but this one will make the game so much easier for bots, and I am really against botting, so I think you can understand why I don't want this one. I also obviously do think they need to fix the botting problem before relaunching Classic WoW, but then again, what can they really do about it? If they do reduce the cost of mandatory things like respecking, class training and mount training, there will already be way less people buying gold, which creates less of a market for bots, which in general will probably mean there will be way less bots. From here they can also hire a couple of active GMs to actively ban bots every single day, as well as do a couple of massive ban waves targeted at specific botting programs. So yeah, that is pretty much my list of changes for Classic Fresh. I probably forgot about some things, so once again feel free to let me know if you have any additional changes that you would like to see, and let me know if you agree or disagree with anything on my list. Remember to smash that like button so we can get this video into the algorithm, so hopefully Blizzard can see it in time, and while you're down there make sure you subscribe as well, because I will be uploading a lot more Classic WoW videos, and you don't want to miss them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.